What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 51st episode of the Boundless Business Podcast. Right now, it's only me and Justine, but we're going to have a phenomenal episode. Justine, how are you? What's going on?
I'm good. Happy it's Friday.
Yeah, I can't believe it's Friday already, right?
I know this week went by really fast, weirdly enough, but that's okay with me.
Yeah. So, Justine, with that being said, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about different ways to upsell and downsell a product or service. So let's start with upsell. And what we mean by that is like someone who you already work with and things are going really well for them. How do you upsell and get them to buy more?
Absolutely. It's a phenomenal uh, statement because when we start working with individuals, usually it's around a very specific problem that we can solve, right? Maybe we want to get more people to our website. Maybe we want to convert more people. Maybe we want to, I don't know, acquire new customers on social, whatever that is. Most of the time, agencies are really good at getting that objective, right? But after a while, there's probably more things as that you notice that could be done, right? So let's say that you are an agency and you're helping people get more customers organically through SEO. After a while, you see results, but then you notice that people are coming to the website and they're not necessarily converting as much, right? So maybe 100 people come and then one person buys. Well, if you can get two people to buy, you've just doubled the amount of sales that you're having, right? So that's when you have the ability to say, hey, we've hit our KPI, we've hit what we want, but we think we can do better. And that's us being more valuable. And if we're more valuable and we're driving more revenue in this case, why couldn't we charge a little bit more, right? Charge more to do so. And then that's just one example, right? I know people that are agencies that ask a lot of questions and they sometimes say, oh, like this agency is having a hard time recruiting, right? I know a recruiter that can refer you. Even though they don't make direct sales from that, they're still valuable because finding the right person like Justine here is very hard. Um, but after a while, the usually and you negotiate your deals, but you can negotiate a 5 or 10% referral fee. So you're still making more money by being more valuable. So that's what we mean about upsells. It's literally around how can we be more valuable and to the point of getting paid to do so. So that's what we mean by upsells. Now that could be simple upsells, like I mentioned, like you do SEO and then you go to do CRO because you're converting more. Maybe it's referrals, but it's just about how do you spot valuable ways and then increase the margins and scope that you can do with that individual because it's so much easier to convert someone who's already a client.
How do you present this to your client? Like how do you approach them about, wanting to do this for them?
Yeah, because it's honestly a very scary thing, right? Like, how do you go to someone and ask them to do more money? What I recommend is check-in calls, right? So every 2 weeks or every month, have a check-in call with your client and ask them, frankly, like, for feedback on your services. And I would straight up ask them, is there any other way that we can be helpful? And if they don't answer with that like more general question, get very specific, saying, hey, I've noticed a couple of ideas that can probably help on the conversion side. I know that's out of scope for what we do, but are you okay exploring that for 10, 15 minutes? And I would just give them the solution. Now, maybe they have someone on staff that they can refer that to and they don't need to hire you, so they wouldn't have done it anyway. But most of the time they'll say, oh, great. Can you just do that? And you're like, yes, sadly it's out of scope. I'm happy to do that for, well, let's say that it looks like we can double sales. That should be about, $20,000 additional revenue. We could do that on an ongoing basis for about $2,000, which is about 10%, which most of the time that's awesome. That's just money that they wouldn't have had anyway. So that's one way of doing that. Now, let's say that you are unable to meet with someone, but you still see problems. What I would do is really focus around, again, the the fact that you're an agency is a huge advantage because you probably have seen things before. So what I would do is still try to schedule a call if you can't put a projection out and say, hey, most companies that we work with, when they hit this benchmark, this happens. So for instance, let's say they do Google advertising. There's only so much that you can advertise for a keyword. Let's say that's landscaping in Phoenix. You might say, okay, like we kind of tapped out where we can here. If we want to grow, if that's the goal, then we might want to consider adding on new platforms or new methods. Typically, then I would just go into more of a sales pitch. Typically, we wanted if you want to increase by this, it's going to be that. So just want to put it out there. We don't have to execute anything today, but again, you're being helpful because most people want to grow their businesses rather than let it shrink. So being proactive is the number one name of the game.
My next question was going to be like, what happens if you receive a lot of pushback from your client? Does that happen often in your experience, or are people usually pretty open and willing to hear like what you have to offer?
Yeah, most of the time, if you have a really good relationship, people are open to hearing things, and you have to, as an agency, think about like how you're working, right? So for us, we tend to send a lot of ideas throughout our engagement. So, oh, this didn't work, or you saw, I know that you've been thinking about conferences. I saw this podcast about conference marketing. We call it above and beyond. So they're used to getting things from you. It might just, it's a lot easier. If it's a little bit out of the blue, you have to be very wary. And that's where you have to say, are they a green client? They love you, they rave about you. The yellow client, are they okay with what you do? Or are they red, thinking about churning? So you got to figure out where they are and how to approach them with that. Because again, you don't want to burn that relationship by asking for more work.
Makes sense. Um, let's transition into downsells, which I feel like most people will be like, oh, we don't want to downsell. We want to sell what we have for, the price that it's worth. But what do we mean when we talk about downsell?
Yeah. So downsells are probably one of not my favorite things, but probably the favorite things I've learned over the last year or so, which is people will churn. They churn from everything, right? Like the brands you and I loved 5 years ago, we might not even like now. And the same thing that goes for service-based companies, agencies, home improvement companies. Eventually, most people will leave. Now, will some stay forever? Yes, but that's more unlikely, right? So, what we want to focus on is like, how are we downselling? So, the most common one is if someone wants to leave for whatever reason. Let's say that they are not seeing the results. What you want to understand is like, okay, uh, is the bridge completely burned, right? Does it not work at all? What I have. So let's say that someone signed up with us and they're just not getting results, right? Are they getting something, right? Is it maybe like one lead versus like five that they need? Well, we can still sell them maybe the process on how to get that one because if they bring it in house, it'll be a lot cheaper versus like it just doesn't work at all, right? Then what you can do is downsell them into a referral, much like we had with the upsell. Let's say that you are working with someone and you're just not like breaking through. That's really frustrating, to be honest. Maybe there's a friend or someone that you know that can actually help. And the best thing to do is to salvage the relationship is refer them out and cash in on that 10 to 15% that you can get from commission, keep the relationship alive. Even though you're losing on revenue, it's not a complete loss. It's not like going down to zero. So that's a couple of ways of downselling, and we can talk more about that, but that's the most common things I've seen.
So it sounds like both of these methods are really the point of it is like to boost customer lifetime value. Is that correct?
Yeah, on the upsells, it's to increase their value so that like we make more profit. But yeah, for most of them, it's keeping clients a little longer. That's where yeah, you're right. The profit tends to be.
Any other things you want to talk about with upsells or downsells or anything that we didn't touch on already?
No, I think the biggest thing is like just understand like you should be looking at clients every couple of weeks, every month, and seeing is there any way that you could be more helpful? Because even if you're not going into an upsell or downsell opportunity, if you can be helpful and be known as frankly, the partner that they have rather than the vendor, it just increases uh, frankly, the way that you work. So if you go into it with a helpful mindset, then it doesn't really matter what you do, and you'll inevitably build more deep relationships that will carry on even if the engagement ends.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I think the relationship part is huge, just like having a good relationship with your clients so that no matter what you tell them, I think it'll be well received usually.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Justine, you're a great example of this. Like, talk to us through like above and beyond means so many things to so many people, but I know this is something you do quite a bit because of our content clients. So I don't know if you have a
Mhm.
story or analogy that you want to share on being helpful.
Yeah, there's just some like platforms that I'll keep my eye on to see if there's anything that could benefit our clients. Like if there's a spot for someone to be a guest on a podcast and it's relevant to one of our clients' industries, I'll be like, hey, this seems like a great opportunity. I even wrote out this pitch for you and just see if they are interested. And usually they are because who doesn't want to be a guest on a podcast, right? So like it's super easy and takes me like 5 minutes a day to just browse this platform and see if I can do anything to be helpful to our clients. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Is there, I know we're reversing this today. Is there a tip that you would have if someone's like, "Ah, like that sounds great, but like I don't even know where to get started to be helpful." Do you have a hack that you think about?
Just kind of do it for them. Like make it as easy as possible for them. Just do it for them so they don't even have to think about it. Is usually my go-to. Write out everything for them and just present it. Be like, hey, this is ready to go. If it looks good, I'll send it out. And then it's done. They don't even have to lift a finger. So that's usually my method.
Yeah, just get it done, right? Like you
Yeah.
won't know until you do, and then you ask for feedback and all of that. Amazing.
Mhm.
Any closing remarks before I give mine?
No, I think this was helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and the biggest feedback I have is just start, right? So like pick one client, that is that you've worked with for a while and see if there's any other ways that you can be helpful. Um, don't think about it from money perspective, especially if you haven't ever done something like this, but just do something for them. And then you'll start noticing more opportunities pop up as your mind gets used to this. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions, email me at nico@boundlessmedia.com. Justine, thank you so much for hosting this and getting really close to the 52 mark. So um, we'll have to celebrate next time. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. Tune in next time, and we'll see everyone very soon. Peace.